What's up, YouTube? Hot Mic with Mike here. Got another video for you. This is going to be kind of snowballing off my last video that I did, where I was talking about food and shortages and how we should expect things to get worse. I'm not trying to be a Mr. Doomsday or anything like that, but these are things that I think that people really need to be paying attention to. And I think that the most Americans, they don't have the time to look into this type of stuff because they're too busy with work and family and all that stuff. And so it helps sometimes when somebody can kind of point things out and notice consistencies or inconsistencies with things that are happening in the world. So I have a lot of links here. I'm going to go through these rather fast because obviously I'd be here for over multiple hours if I was actually going through each article. And I'll put links in the description for every single one of these articles. So if you want to go in back and read them for yourself, you can do that. But basically the premise of this video is I want to kind of pose a question, and I think the question should be, do you believe that our food supply is under attack? We have a lot of other things, geopolitical events and stuff like that are happening, the war in Ukraine, that's also impacting the food supply, but it goes so much further than that, and just that alone is going to impact the food supply. The war in Ukraine between Russia is going to decrease fall harvests by, I have it here as 7 million metric tons, and it's going to impact unstable nations, and these unstable nations are Lebanon, Yemen, Libya, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Egypt. Okay, so these are, like I said, unstable nations that they're not as well off as the United States or Europe, and they're not going to be able to handle this as well as maybe we would. And I do believe that it's going to impact the United States and Europe exponentially. So having said that, I'm going to get into some of these articles. Again, I'm just going to kind of read the title, give you the date, and then if you want to go back, you can look at them. So first article I have here is Bonanza Meat Company building fire at Pasano Drive near downtown El Paso. This was February 15th, 2022. Fire erupts at meat processing facility in Lackawanna County. This was last year, November 29th, 2021. Crews battle major fire at Cobb County Meat Company. This was on August 24th, 2021. Fire shuts down Nebraska JBS beef plant, September 13th, 2021. Massive fire at Salinas food processing plant contained, April 14th, 2022. Explosion causes fire at Oregon potato chip plant, February 23rd, 2022. Oh, really? You're going to make me? This was, I can't really read it, but another one here. Of course, they want to make you pay for news when you can get news anywhere, and that's really cool. Okay, so there's another one there, but we won't be able to read that one. Wisconsin River Meats says portion of Mauston plant a total loss after fire, February 3rd, 2022. Large fire at Tyson Poultry Meat Plant in Hansonville, Alabama. This was July 31st, 2021. Cattle rescued after fire destroys meat market, April 13th, 2022. You guys noticing a trend here? Fire causes over $100,000 in damages at San Antonio food processing plant. This was December 13th, 2021. Fire ravages McCrum potato processing plant in Belfast, Maine. This was 29 days ago. They don't give the date, but you guys can do the math. That's about late March. Memphis Fire Department responds to third alarm fire at Kellogg's Company. This is July 25th, 2021. Explosion and fire reported at Cargill Nutrina feed mill. Let's see, this is January 14th of this year. 50,000 pounds of food destroyed after fire ripped through Maricopa food pantry. March 29th, 2022. Rio Fresh's onion warehouse damaged in fire, April 1st, 2022. Taylor Farms plans to rebuild and reopen Salinas plant by next year, April 18th, 2022. So this is, we already talked about one of these fires earlier, but this is them saying that they plan on rebuilding the plant next year, which means they're not putting anything out until next year at best. 7 injured in explosion as fire engulfs food plant. Smoke visible for miles. February 22nd, 2022. Plane crashes into Georgia General Mills plant. This is just recently, the other day actually, April 21st, 2022. And fire destroys Azure Standard headquarters facility. And this was, let's see if they have a date on this one, April 20th, 2022. So obviously there's more. But I'm trying to give you the idea of how many different fires we've had just in the past year. It seems a little weird to me that all of these meat processing plants or grain plants or whatever it is, these places where food is manufactured, it's being destroyed. There's just randomly having fires. Some of these have, if you go back, some of them were arson. They know that they were arson. Other ones, they're under investigation, so they just still don't know why the fire happened or what caused it. But that just seems really odd to me that all these different meat plants and etc. Are being attacked or burned to the ground. This is a link to Ice Age Farmer. He has gone and he's actually mapped out all of the different fires. I believe this is the past 2 years, and this is beyond the United States. So you can see the Beirut explosion and fire in cotton factory. So these are just different ones that you can go on the map and look for yourself and just to see. So support, props to him for making this. It's pretty cool. And then here's a link from the Ukraine war. World Bank warns of human catastrophe, food crisis, and this is April 21st, 2022. So you can go in here and read this one. That they calculate there will be a 37% jump in food prices, and obviously you can go in there. It's a 4-minute read. Harvests of Fear: The Emerging Global Food Crisis. This is 3/17/2022, and this is kind of mapping it out for you guys to see all the different areas and how it's going to be impacted, who's going to be impacted the most. Like I said, those unstable nations are the ones that are going to be hit the hardest. But just to give you an idea, we went from 80 million to it was 276 million people. 4 years prior to the Ukraine war, we were having lackluster harvests 4 years prior to the war. So now we have the war, which is going to make things even worse. And there was already people facing like poverty and facing famine and starvation, from 80 to 276 million. And again, that was 4 years prior to the war in Ukraine. So imagine now what it's going to cost, what it's going to impact. This is a tweet from the German agricultural minister. He's urging to arm Ukraine to avert global hunger. And he's saying that alarming news from Ukraine where Russian troops are destroying agricultural infrastructure, which could have long-term effects on world food supplies. Basically, nothing's going to be coming out of Ukraine for the most part. And again, they're like the breadbasket of Europe. We get us and even many other countries get pretty much the majority of their wheat from Ukraine. And this was another really interesting article to kind of go along with everything, how the food is going to be impacted. It says CF Industries warns of nitrogen fertilizer shipment delays. CF Industries has informed its customers it serves by Union Pacific Rail Lines that railroad mandated shipping reductions would result in nitrogen fertilizer shipment delays during the spring application season, that it would be unable to accept new rail sales involving Union Pacific for the foreseeable future. It says the company understands that it is one of only 30 companies to face these restrictions. So it's not just them, it's them and 30 other companies. This is basically the whole rail lines aren't going to be able to get their fertilizer shipments to farmers. This is a huge deal because they need fertilizer in order to get the maximum crop yields. Um, they're not putting out the amount of food that they need to. So if you got like 100, and 80, let's just for an example, 180 acres of corn is being harvested, like it's going to be like 30 now. So it's just crazy the amount of food that's not going to be able to be produced to support 8 billion people in the entire world. And then lastly, I just wanted to show this one link. You remember when Joe Biden said that he's going to take from the strategic oil reserves, and he was doing this to lower the price of gasoline, which hasn't done anything to the price of gasoline, because that was just recently. And why he would be taking reserves out to lower the cost of gasoline is pretty stupid, because we rely on those reserves to, if we had a real emergency, an increase in the cost of gasoline is an emergency. It's unfortunate, but it's not going to fix the problem. And taking gasoline down a couple cents isn't going to make any difference whatsoever. But he's sending it to Europe, and it's interesting because Europe's talking about potentially embargoing oil from Russia after the French elections, because they're trying to get, obviously it's political, they want to get Macron reelected. And the same thing with Biden, he's doing this. He's releasing 1 million barrels per day for 180 days, of course ending just before the midterm election. So these are things that are just political. They don't care about you. They don't care about anything other than getting your vote so that they can get back into office. So he's going to send oil to Europe. My guess would be because if they're going to embargo Russian oil, then they're going to need oil from another source. So we'll send it to them because they're one of our allies. And then if we go into war, where we have to fuel up our jets and our different vehicles and basically fuel the war, we're not going to be able to, because we're not going to have those reserves. So this is a huge deal, and I just wanted to make you guys aware of it. So I guess the last question I have for you is, do you think we'll face shortages, full-blown famine, or is it just going to be all as well and nothing's going to happen, and everything will just be all right? We have, if we didn't harvest anything and we just stopped making food today, we would have 90 days of food left on the earth for everybody. So it's kind of giving you an idea of how much this is going to be impacted. At the bare minimum, my opinion is that food prices will skyrocket. So most people won't even be able to afford it. I mean, what good is food being available if, you're having to pay $40, $50 for a piece of steak or whatever, it's nuts. And I think that it's going to get a lot worse. And so what I'm saying to you is you need to make sure, again, to go and get extra food. When you go to the grocery store, get extra of everything. I know it's more expensive, but it's going to get even more expensive. So it's kind of combating inflation at the same time as, making sure your family has food and water to be able to, feed your family and not, starve. I'm going to also be doing a video. I just got some Mylar bags and some oxygen absorbers, and I'm going to show you a cheaper and I think easier way of prepping your food so that it lasts longer. Obviously, rice and beans and stuff like that has a pretty decent expiration, a shelf life, I should say. But to be able to keep it for a lot longer and not have to worry about it going bad, Mylar bags is a really good way to combat that. So that's probably going to be one of my next videos that I do, is showing how to do it. Again, it's super cheap. I think I spent maybe $20 for like the Mylar bags and the oxygen absorbers all together, and I think I got 50 of both. So it's pretty cool, and I'm pretty excited to do that video as well. But hope you guys are doing well. I hope that this kind of opened your eyes a little bit to see what's kind of going on. That I really do believe that they're attacking our food supply because they know that at the end of the day, if they can control the food and the water, they can control the people, and they can make you bend to their will. So let me know what you think in the comments below. And again, I'll have all the links for this in the description. Take it easy.